We ask, who is winning the US-China tech war?
I don't like using the word war.
Washington has pushed ahead with tough new laws on Chinese firms.
However, I would urge Chinese companies to focus on what they can control. Well, I think there's a belief or a fear today among executives across countries around the world that it will be harder and harder to operate technology companies across borders, whether it's about buying components from other countries or about delivering an internet service in another country. That's really what decoupling is. It's when certain countries or certain regions are separated from the rest of the world via rules or other things that don't let them do business. And we have seen that from multiple places around the world in terms of export controls, in terms of data localization rules and other things that restrict companies from operating across borders. I think that's a fear that we see. All companies will have to deal with a more and more difficult global environment, whether it's European companies operating in the United States, American companies operating in China, or Chinese companies operating global. The rules are getting stricter. Going global is harder. Now, we need to try to fix that collectively as a globe. However, I would urge Chinese companies to focus on what they can control, becoming more diverse in their leadership teams, building out stronger global political relations, getting more and more partners outside China, bringing in more global talent. There's things that they can do separate from the politics that will help them become stronger global companies. I don't like using the word war. I have many Chinese friends and clients. I have many American friends and clients. And I see Chinese and American companies and people cooperating every day in technology. There's enormous cooperation and collaboration still happening today. It's easy to look at headlines and use words like war and other things, but I think it's the wrong term. I do think that this is a very sticky and difficult subject. And the big reason is that most technology is dual use. You can use a supercomputer to drive AI for consumer applications. You can also use a supercomputer to do nuclear bomb testing. And that's the problem. How do we appropriately limit and protect our people around military applications, around cybersecurity, around espionage, without hurting legitimate business, when these technologies, whether they're used in China or in the United States, can be used for both? It's a very difficult topic that I think both Chinese and American policymakers are struggling with. But first of all, I think that we can find some areas for common ground. So for instance, around, let's say, the usage of artificial intelligence for autonomous military systems. This is something we really need to talk about and get on the same page with so we don't have unintended consequences. Or using technology to decarbonize the economy and stop climate change. That isn't controversial. That's places where the US and China can cooperate with each other. We can find win-wins. But then there's the bigger issue of how the US and China will interact with each other around technology collaboration. And for me, it's quite simple. There's a choice. And the choice is both countries can be open or both countries can be closed. That's it. So we can be open or closed. If we're open, we need to figure out new rules about how we can open both sides. And if we're closed, let's just shake hands and say, we won't do business with each other, but let's not fight about it. What we don't have is a stable situation. We don't know which way we're going. So of course, as someone who straddles both worlds, I think the obvious choice is open. But both sides need to come to the table, talk about that, and figure out what that means with some mutual trust and transparency. I think China, along with several other Asian nations, have had a nice economic turnaround. And when I look out on the street, I feel like China is 99% back to normal, except a lot of the international hotels and airports are empty. So it's a great job. Going forward, where is the growth from China? Of course, China needs a new growth model. The old model of building tons and tons of infrastructure, tons and tons of empty houses, and raising lots of debt, that model won't work for very much longer. This is about upgrading consumers, but this is mostly and far most importantly about productivity. Raising the productivity of capital and raising the productivity of labor. I think technology is very, very important for that, and China's taken a lot of important steps, but there's still a lot of work to do. Deregulation of the financial markets, deregulation of the labor markets, and then really letting private enterprise flourish, because private enterprise will find the most productive ways to use labor and capital. That's the future. And then one final comment. Along with productivity, the other big thing that China needs is globalization. China has been fantastic at building companies that make stuff in China and ship it to the rest of the world. That's not the future. China needs to build global companies that were founded in China. That means most of their employees may be outside China, most of their R&D, most of their manufacturing. They need to have global executives, non-Chinese executives on their board of directors and as their CEOs. That's the future. That's a big change for China, but I have a lot of confidence that it can do it.